Indonesia's new capital Nusantara. Why billions are being spent to build it. Billed as the world's largest infrastructure project, Indonesia's new capital city, Nusantara, is set to be built from scratch, with more than $40 billion being spent to make it happen. But why? Here are some reasons why Indonesia is spending so much to build this new capital. Jakarta is Indonesia's capital and largest city. Located on an estuary of the Ciliwung River, on the northwestern part of Java, the area has long sustained human settlement. Historical evidence from Jakarta dates back to the 4th century CE, when it was a Hindu settlement and port. Jakarta has been known by several names. It was called Sunda Kelapa during the Kingdom of Sunda period and Jayakarta, Jajakarta or Jakatra during the short period of the Banten Sultanate. Thereafter, Jakarta evolved in 3 stages. The Old City, close to the sea in the north, developed between 1619 and 1799 during the era of the VOC. The New City, to the south, evolved between 1809 and 1942 after the Dutch government took over control of Batavia from the failed VOC whose charter expired in 1799. The third was the development of modern Jakarta since the proclamation of independence in 1945. Under the Dutch, it was known as Batavia and was Jakarta, during the Japanese occupation and the modern period. Problems with Jakarta. Though many of them have jobs, millions of Jakartans live in informal settlements like North Jakarta's Kampung Pulo. While many support President Joko Widodo's plan to move Indonesia's capital from overcrowded Jakarta, others worry about what will happen to informal settlements like Kampung Pulo. The government is spending billions on building a brand new city called Nusantara. But critics say that money could be better used for other things. As Indonesia prepares for a major shift, some residents wonder if they'll get left behind again. New capital city. Indonesia's government plans to move its political and administrative operations from Jakarta into a brand new capital city in East Borneo, about 2-hour flight to northeast of Jakarta. This will be called Nusantara, which is also Indonesian for archipelago or islands nation. Jokowi, Indonesia's president since 2014 who has said that he does not intend on running for re-election in 2024, has argued that moving Indonesia's population centers away from Java where 80% of Indonesians live would help encourage development throughout other islands and promote national unity. The first phase of construction is expected to begin as early as 2019 and finish by 2035. What makes it different? Because Indonesia is building a new capital, why should you be paying attention? There's nothing particularly unusual about that. What makes it different is how closely related Indonesia's push for a new state-of-the-art city is to its current president. Joko Widodo has been in office since October 2014 and has already made some bold moves as he tries to improve his country's economy and infrastructure. One of his most recent was announcing that his government would move from Jakarta, which is currently home to 10 million people, to a brand new city called Nusantara. The move will take place over several years starting in 2019 and cost an estimated $40 billion USD. In total, Nusantara will cover an area of 8 million hectares, about 20 million acres, making it bigger than Singapore or New York City, and one of the largest cities in history by landmass. How much? Indonesia President Joko Widodo says Indonesia needs a new capital city. With more than half of its 261 million people living in urban centers, Widodo has pointed out that it's costly for people to travel long distances, the Jakarta Post reports. For example, a bus ride from Bandung, one of Java's major cities, to Jakarta takes about 2 hours and costs more than $50. And infrastructure projects like toll roads cost more due to increased traffic and congestion. Widodo believes moving government agencies to a centralized location will not only save money but also improve economic growth. On January 20, 2016, Widodo announced plans to create a new capital city called Nusantara. In addition to serving as Indonesia's administrative center, it will be home to international organizations such as ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which is headquartered in Malaysia. It will also include business districts and other amenities such as museums and shopping malls. Construction on Nusantara began in March 2016 with a budget of around $40 billion. The project is expected to take at least 15 years to complete, though some say it could take up to 30 years. Funding. There isn't much information available on how exactly funding will be allocated or where all of it will come from. But officials have said they plan on using state funds, loans and private investments. Some have suggested that foreign investors could help finance some aspects of construction through public-private partnerships, PPPs, because PPPs typically involve commercial activities run by private entities with partial or full government funding or financing guarantees. Lessons learned. The amount of money and effort Indonesia is putting into building Nusantara could put it in a position of prominence globally. This will take decades, but if all goes according to plan, Indonesia could be on track for making history. And why is that? Joko Widodo, or Jokowi, was elected president on a platform that promised greater development across all regions of Indonesia, including West Papua. He also promised better urban planning through establishing a number of new Special Economic Zones, SEZs. Special Administrative Regions, Daerah Khusus Ibukota, DKI, like Jabodetabek, and planned cities such as Bogor Depok and West Java's Tanjung Lesung. His administration has been hard at work since he took office in October 2014, with SEZs popping up left and right. It seems Jokowi has found success by not only focusing on improving infrastructure across Indonesia but by developing its people and encouraging them to invest in their own future. There's no doubt that Jokowi is trying to make his mark on Indonesian history by creating a modern city from scratch. Something no other Indonesian president before him has attempted. As ambitious as it may seem now, if successful, Nusantara could become an icon for modern development around the world, especially considering how far behind many Asian countries were just decades ago. Not only does Nusantara have massive potential, but there's still plenty of room for growth. At present, less than 20% of Indonesians live in cities, and some estimates suggest nearly half of all citizens will be living in one by 2030. So while we're still getting used to thinking about Jakarta when we think about Indonesia, hopefully within our lifetimes Jakarta can start sharing some spotlight with Nusantara. The official population count is expected to reach 10 million inhabitants once it opens sometime after 2019, which would already be more than Singapore and Taiwan had upon becoming independent states. While much of Southeast Asia continues to develop quickly and attract foreign investment, Indonesia remains home to over 261 million people. That means there's plenty of opportunity for investors looking for long-term opportunities without having to worry about oversaturation anytime soon. From a branding perspective, too, Nusantara could help put Indonesia on par with places like India and China in terms of visibility on a global scale. If all goes according to plan and everything works out well financially over time, then perhaps someday we'll see millions of tourists visiting Nusantara every year instead of just passing through Jakarta en route somewhere else. What happens next will depend largely on whether or not Jokowi can continue making progress towards achieving his goals as president.